Hello, welcome to our channel. It is Wednesday, garbage day. Exciting. We may not be here Friday. We're going to find out. They really whacked on my foot. I merged with a scooter. Anyway, this is insane. Our media has gone absolutely insane as our economy continues to tank. We're going to go over that in a minute. But first, a little bit from our advertiser. Get the tea. I had 3 takedown this morning. It's either takedown cinnamon or Jimneva. But the takedown I like because if I eat milk products, oh man, they go through me really well. And so the takedown helps with everything else. Anyway, I like Get the Tea because it's a quality company. Jay, Lisa, the rest of them are all good people. And I like it because the product that I get works as opposed to, how many different bottles do I have on my shelf, Jane?
A lot.
Yeah, they don't work.
Pharmacia.
Yeah, Pharmacia. So anyway, that works really well. Anyway, see and wait till you hear about the sales tomorrow. CNN goes absolutely insane. They claim Jamaica has 165 mile an hour winds. So I go to the live cameras, people out on boats, people just connecting to the internet.
Yes, there's a storm, but not as severe as they're saying.
20 mile an hour winds. The ocean is somewhat choppy. At 85 miles an hour, chain link fences are solid walls and they blow over. Trees blow over at 100 miles an hour. That didn't happen. Sure, a bunch of rotten old trees blew over. The CNN's going to try to make up for their lies, but they claim there were 160, Category 5, 165 mile an hour winds going to flatten Jamaica. Are you dumb enough to believe CNN?
Jamaica mistake?
Jamaica mistake.
Jamaica mistake?
Anyway, absolute, total, complete lie. Even the reporters on the ground were standing up. 160 mile an hour winds would have flattened Jamaica. Absolute, total CIA lie to see if you'll believe it. And there's more. Not only did they claim Jamaica was flattened, even though the live cameras don't show that, they claimed, are you ready for this, Jane? That Rio de Janeiro was in flames. They're offshore, you're hearing bang, 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 and you got 5 or 6 buildings that are burning and blah, blah, blah. So I went to the live cameras. Copacabana, because they had Copacabana in the background. Copacabana in Rio de Janeiro is a big beach they turned into some resort. Okay, so you go out there, it's kind of like, only Waikiki is much smaller. It's kind of like Waikiki. So it's just a beautiful beach. There's a lot of them, but they turned Copacabana into a beautiful Copacabana song, Jane. Remember that?
Copacabana.
Yeah, we don't want to get.
Hottest place in the
We don't want to get banned and Copacabana. Anyway, they claim that the buildings were burning, gunshots everywhere. So I go to the live cameras. I didn't go to one live camera. I went to about 20 live cameras here and there, and no burning buildings. Total, absolute, 4 CIA operatives working to make you think Rio de Janeiro is in total chaos. Turned out the government did raid a bunch of drug dealers, but they didn't burn anything. And the smoke coming off, there was one of the 5 columns that had a shadow. The other 5 smokes coming up didn't have a shadow. And we've been bantering with Brighteon and whatdoesitmean.com, and I think they're both CIA controlled. BlackRock has come in and is buying everything. You will sell me your controlling shares for $1 or else. And that's what I think they're doing to the media right now. The director said, when everything you believe is fake, we win. That's Lucifer's, the father of lies. So the CIA is the followers of Lucifer. That's who the directors are. So anyway, the economy has more layoffs. Walmart, Nestle's, Amazon, UPS, Target, FedEx, Rivian Trucks, Nike, which apparently is being reorganized. Completely reorganized. And they're blaming this on tariffs. Well, if this cell phone comes into the country for $10 and I have to pay $1,000 for this cell phone, the tariffs will raise it from $10 to $20, and I'm still paying $1,000 for the cell phone. Now, I always wait 2 years and get it for $200. So I have yesterday's technology. It doesn't matter. It's a cell phone. I search the net with it. I don't care if I pay $1,000 or $200 for it. But if this comes into the country for $10, they boost it to $20. The only people that affects are the middleman, and not very much either. Remember that furnace part they brought in for $2.45 that sold for $145 at the local furnace store? Well, the 100% tariffs would take it from $2.40 to $4.90. But I still buy it for $145. It's the middleman that's taking about a 2% cut in his profits. So this phone going from $10 to $20 is not going to affect, but they're going to try to raise it to $1,200, $1,500 and say tariffs, tariffs, tariffs. Well, that's exactly what these Walmart and Nestle's and Amazon and UPS and Target and FedEx and Rivian Trucks and Nike are all doing. They're saying, well, you're going to raise the cell phone from $10 to $20. We're going to raise it from $1,000 to $1,500 because we can. And the American public will pay it. Ha 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 ha. Yeah. Is that why after 3 years this sells for $150? Yeah. You're getting screwed, blued, and tattooed. I'm telling you what, I have never seen such greedy people in my life as the American capitalists now run by BlackRock. Every major company, Walmart, Nestle's, Amazon, UPS, Target, FedEx, Rivian Trucks, Nike is all owned by BlackRock, and they're all laying off. Oh, it's due to robots. We're bringing in AI. Oh, it's due to the tariffs. No, it isn't. In Texas, there's a Texas Retail Association. Sales are down 6.2% this year. No, they're not. They're down almost 25%. Sales on everything are plummeting in America. People are more worried about putting hamburger on their table than they are about a fluffed doll. Now, granted, in rich communities that suck off the government, like when we cross the bridge, they suck off the government. Of course they have lots of money. But in other neighborhoods that don't suck off the government, there's no money. And the government's sucking. That big sucking sound, as Ross Perot said, is coming to an end because this looks like it's a permanent shutdown. Absolute permanent shutdown. The United States sold $44 billion of bonds 2 days ago. But it doesn't say who bought the bonds. You can't find out who bought the bonds. I tried to find out who bought the bonds. It wouldn't say. So the Federal Reserve Bank, the Feds, are buying the Treasury bonds, even though they're the same company. The Federal Reserve is buying the Treasury bonds. It's like IBM A buying IBM B bonds. It's total, absolute freaking madness. So now the Federal Reserve System is buying United States corporation stock. And the United States corporation is seizing companies and claiming that they can spend that money, and the rest of the world ain't going along with it. Now, the Federal Reserve banking system has a lot of control. But outside of this company, if they screw somebody, they'll shoot them. Here in this country, they can screw the Americans. Trump does nothing. But in China and Russia, they screw the Chinese and Russian people. They put in new people. So the Federal Reserve System runs the Federal Reserve banks all over the world. So the Russian Federal Reserve Bank, the Chinese Federal Reserve Bank, but again, they screw those people, they'll shoot them. They actually have law enforcement in those other countries. Not like here. So we don't know who's buying the bonds. We can't tell who's buying the bonds. You can try as you will, but it won't say who's buying the bonds. Now, about 15% of the bonds are 25-year bonds. About 15% of the bonds average about a half-a-year bond. But most of them, about 50%, go between 3 and 5 years. So if we've got a $36 trillion debt, we have to sell about $10 to $15 trillion of bonds every week. We're selling $44 billion. We've got to sell about $100 billion every week to keep up with that. But we're not, are we? Actually, we have to sell more than that. We have to sell close to $250 billion of bonds. In other words, U.S. bonds are not being redeemed. If you own a U.S. bond, a California bond, a Maine bond, a California school district bond, a California municipality bond, you'll never be reimbursed. The United States will not reimburse your bonds anymore. Get out of European and United States bonds. I used to sell funds, mutual funds. Now I'm saying get out of United States government and European bonds. So the U.S. Treasury has refused to disclose to anyone who buys the bonds. The bonds are not being redeemed. They're backed by nothing. There is no gold. There is no silver. There is nothing. You buy paper gold, you buy paper silver, they call it in, you get nothing. You don't even get that much silver when you call in $100 million of bonds.
Yet they're suppressing the price.
Well, of course they're suppressing the price. Because if the price goes to $6,000, the U.S. dollar loses its world reserve currency status. But I think it's losing its world reserve currency status now because about half of the world is now trading outside the United States dollar. Our great allies, Saudi Arabia, China, Russia, they're trading outside the U.S. dollar. Absolutely outside the U.S. dollar. Isn't that amazing? So I have some questions that you can ask your congressmen, which are not in Washington, D.C. They're out partying while you're getting laid off. They're having a, $5,000 a night party. So how come we're paying the Ukrainian welfare and the Ukrainian military, but come the first of the month we can't pay the U.S. military, but we can give the Ukraine $10 billion, but we can't pay our military $5 billion? I want to know. Why did the United States just give $80 billion to build two nuclear power plants when we don't? $80 billion was given by the United States corporation to two companies, but we don't have $200 million to pay the FAA employees, so the airport's shut down. But we can pay $80 billion to two private corporations, but we can't pay $200 million to keep the airports open. I want to know what the friggin' is going on. I want to know why we just gave Argentina Labaricher Company $40 billion, a Jewish-owned company, $40 billion, so one of our U.S. companies can sell its bonds and get out without taking any losses. Well, how the United States can spend $40 billion on a foreign company but can't pay the FAA employees $200 million. We couldn't care less about SNAP programs. 35 million of those 41 million are illegal aliens. I couldn't care less if you canceled that. And I want to know why we have 75 million people on Social Security getting paid, but only 15 million are retired Americans, and only 15 million are disabled Americans, with over half of those disabled saying, I'm mentally disabled, I can't work. Why are we paying 75 million people Social Security when only 15 million Americans are retired on Social Security and you can't pay the FAA employees? I want accountability, and you're either going to give it or God's going to take it from you. One of the two. We already know that the FBI and the Secret Service are more worthless than teats on a warthog. They know there's a credible threat against President Trump on 11 November and have taken no action. They knew about Air Force One coming down. We told them the day before. It was all over the net. Every website we could get to, we said, take care of Air Force One. And Air Force One, they call it Marine One when it's a helicopter. Yeah, whoopee. Went down. We warned the FBI. We warned the White House. The FBI, the Secret Service, took no action. Air Force went down with President Trump and Melania in it. Now they're not doing anything about 11 November. They need to have their salaries eliminated. Pay the FAA, cut off the FBI. I want accountability. The American public wants accountability. And you will give us accountability, or God will take it out of your hide in the White House. So he said it, so it shall be. Are there any questions, President Trump? Are there any questions, all you strange, weird people like Hegseth and Rubio? Are there any questions about what God's going to do? I don't know what he's going to do. But if I was sitting in your shoes and I couldn't account for paying 75 million Americans Social Security and not paying the FAA workers, I would be embarrassed. I wouldn't step out of that White House. I wouldn't show my face to the American public. How can you pay Ukrainian welfare but not the FAA? How come those on welfare who are 45 years old can get welfare in the Ukraine, but you can't pay the FAA employees? I want to know. The American public wants to know, and God wants an accountability right now of your actions, or things are going to turn south very quickly. So he said it, so it shall be. God bless. Thank you very much. We appreciate each and every one of you, and we'll see you tomorrow.